Okay, first guest we have on the show. And when you meet someone who is like different in person than you expect because they're incredibly down to earth and not totally full of themselves? Well, that's today's guest. Welcome to Speak Out. I am your host, Christine Yeargin, and today we are talking to the host of the podcast Uncancelable, and he really is uncancelable. He is also a mega influencer. He's probably going to hate me for using that word, but Christian Walker is our guest today. I'm so excited. When I met Christian, I was really pleasantly surprised. I've had the opportunity to meet really awesome people through work and through my activism, and a lot of which do have really large followings on social media, similar to Christian. And it's not often that you meet someone with a large following who is crazy down to earth and wants to hear about you instead of talk about themselves. And it's not just me, but he treats his fans the same way. We've been to a couple of conferences together, and he doesn't have it in him to turn anybody down. If somebody wants to meet him, he's going to let him. Even if he's running late, he's just great. We've connected on some of our life stories, and I have the privilege of calling him a friend. I'm so excited for you guys to hear from him. Okay, today we have Christian Walker, who I absolutely love and adore. He says everything that everybody else pretty much wants to say, but is a little too scared to say. He has no filter. Thank you, Christian, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Christine. I'm honored. I know you're doing such a good job. I'm so proud of you. Thanks for being a good friend to me, and I'm excited to be on.
Oh, I love you. So I don't even really know this, and I don't know that we've ever talked about it. We've had lots of conversations. How did you get your account so big and become an influencer? Was it you just going on and ranting about politics and you just blew up from there? Or did you have kind of a large following prior to that?
It was pretty organic. I grew up as a gymnast and competitive cheerleader, so I did have a base of like 100,000 or something just from that. But I wasn't growing at the time, and when BLM started burning my town down, shooting police officers, and ruining my neighborhood, I said, and people were posting black squares encouraging the violence. I said, okay, this is it. I just started making videos, and it took off from there.
You're literally in the middle of a lot of what was happening. We're seeing stuff on the news of what was happening with BLM in Hollywood and Beverly Hills, people going in and looting stores. Did you experience any of that close to you?
I watched the riots from the roof of where I lived. We
Oh,
were
good
right in the
grief.
middle of it. We saw everything. There were 8 helicopters in the air, billows of smoke from police cars that had been set on fire. My street was totally destroyed. So it was really personal. This is my home, and I felt like my house was attacked. It was
Right.
really disgusting. It was gross, and to see that people were ignorant and encouraging the destruction, that's what really pushed me to start speaking up because I didn't see anybody else doing it.
Totally. And they say Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, abortion is like the number one killer of Black lives. And if Black Lives matter, then Black lives in the womb also matter. We saw a lot of those riots out here in Denver too. I want to hear, at what point did you know you were pro-life, and why are you pro-life? I know we've talked about this a little bit in person. We haven't gone super in depth with it, but was there a time where you're like, you know what, I'm not okay? Or maybe you were pro-abortion before. I don't know, because we haven't dove into it. So this is I'm hearing this for the first time too, along with everybody else.
Well, I think the super cool, fun people are the ones that have some big transition story. But I don't. I grew up Christian. I'm still Christian. I love the Lord. I'm not perfect. I'm terrible
None of us are.
sometimes. However, um, and I believe we have a creator, and life starts in the womb, and he creates us for a purpose. It's not
Right.
just, it's not random. So
Totally.
if I believe that life starts in the womb, and our Creator knits us in the womb, well then if you're ending that life, that's murder and that's ending a life. So that's why I'm pro-life, and I've never budged. I'm
I love
pro-life to
that.
the, as some people would say, to the extreme, because I don't believe you can compromise on it if you truly believe it's a life. The only people that can compromise
Yeah.
on it are those who don't believe it's life. We have a lot of pro-life people, as you know, who are like, oh, well, but in this circumstance, no,
Right.
I think all life is valid, all life's created by God, and that's the end of the discussion.
Totally. No, I agree with you. Obviously, we don't get to decide who is and who isn't valuable. All life is valuable. It's not up to you or I to decide which babies get to live. Like, this baby's valuable, but that one's not. We just don't get to do that. I listen to your podcast often, Uncancelable, which everybody, if you haven't listened to it before, you should be listening to it now. You mentioned this today, and kind of it piggybacks off of a show that Netflix just aired yesterday called Hes Expecting. You talked about a little bit about women getting pregnant, or excuse me, men saying that they can get pregnant, trans men, obviously, which we really know is
Are
a
women.
woman. Yeah. Let's expand on that a
So,
little bit. How do you
so
feel?
I said in my podcast, and I kind of stand by this, had this show been presented like 30 years ago, everyone would have taken it as a joke, and it probably would have been a comedy show because it
Totally.
wouldn't have been a trans man getting pregnant. The show would have been based off of a husband and a wife. The husband gets pregnant, and it would have been funny. Nobody used to believe in delusions. Now we have a delusional culture that thinks men can get pregnant, but it's really just women saying they're men. And so our culture sort of pushes this and eggs this on. So therefore, it's not funny. It's not a joke. And it's not entertaining because it feels like the studios and the entertainment centers that try to push this aren't pushing it to entertain their audience, but rather to push an agenda.
100% push an agenda. To me as a woman, it feels like they're trying to erase women. Only women can get pregnant. We are the only ones who have uteruses. Only women should be in women's sports. They're trying to push us out of that. Do you notice the same? To me, it just seems like they want to get rid of it. And it's feminist pushing this too. And you're like, how are you a feminist? And you're pushing women out.
Absolutely. It's an erasure of women and it's a destruction of language. I always say, like, just because I say I'm a unicorn and a mermaid doesn't make me that. So this idea
Oh, my
that
kids would
you
love
can
that.
completely completely ignore your biology and just, place a word on yourself. No, we have language for a reason and it's to
Totally.
describe real things. So you don't get to distort that and then expect me to believe in your delusion. And so I take issue with that. And of course, I take issue with the erasure of women because all of my closest friends are women. I'm so close with my mom. I have an older sister. I can't deal with it. I can't.
Yeah. No, you and me both. I want to show a couple of TikToks to kind of get your reaction. You are like, I know you've been banned on TikTok before, but you're back on. What is this, like the third time?
I'm back for the second time, but
Second time. Okay, I
yeah.
thought it was third time. What did you have before? Like the first time you got banned on TikTok?
So I had billions of views. I had about 500,000 followers.
And they
But
just scrapped
people,
it.
even when I was banned, they were reposting my videos. So like I still had a large presence on TikTok
Right.
as I do now. I just don't even care. It's so ghetto and trashy, as I'm sure we're about to see in these TikToks.
Yeah, I want to hear because I feel like you're so good at social media. You just got back on TikTok and you're already almost at 100,000 again after just being back. Like you have almost 500,000 on Instagram. You have hundreds of thousand on Twitter. Like you're good at social media. You're good at what you do. So I kind of want to see your reaction on these videos and then maybe get some advice for people who are listening or watching and kind of want to know what the pro-life movement should be doing online. So
Awesome.
Kevin, do you want to play that video for us?
Hi, my name is Julia. I love abortion and detention. It's true. If you hold your hand up like this long enough, people will stop getting pregnant. Actually, I'm pretty sure abortion does make a baby go away. Gosh, can she stop taking other designers' designs? It's actually really not cool. Abort it, abort it, abort it, abort it, abort it. Look at all of the cops here to make sure that no one steals anything from Sephora. Is this the Nicki version?
So that is one of many videos. I'll show you another one here in a second. And a lot of videos that I was finding too, then we see them go viral all the time. It's girls filming themselves in abortion clinics, whether they're actually having an abortion or not, I don't know, but making light of it or playing a boombox outside of a Planned Parenthood and say, go best friend, because their best friend's getting an abortion. Like, this is kind of what we're up against, especially when it comes to Gen Z and trying to find viral content and make something, get 1 million views or 2 million views, whatever. Some of it's outrage, but some of it, they genuinely believe this. So I want to hear your reaction, and I want to hear what we can do to kind of combat that.
So before anything, I just want to point out to everyone how you notice how the woman is completely deranged. She's not necessarily deranged. She has no class, and she's fine with being obnoxious. She has no shame. I believe when we're up against that sort of extreme, we take a lesson from their playbook. If anybody ever watches me online, I don't really have any shame online. I'm willing to do whatever,
Zero.
yell,
no
whatever.
filter.
She's yelling at people. She's saying things. We're trying to save lives. This isn't like some little issue like, gas isn't a little issue at all, and it's affecting middle America and everyday American citizens. It's not a little issue, but we're literally defending lives from murder. You're allowed to be a little obnoxious in your content. I understand it's hard for a lot of pro-life people or conservatives because we are classy and we have morals and we don't want to offend other people.
Right, we care.
Hey, do something a little engaging and entertaining. Holding the phone to your face and just, reciting your views doesn't really gain traction. She's out, she's talking to people, she's, yelling. Do a little something fun and crazy.
Yeah, great points. Great points. I know we have a lot of young people who are always like, what do we do? How do we compete with this? How do we get our videos out there? Kevin, do you want to play the second video? I'll let you react first to this one.
What's something you'll get a lot of hate for if you say it out loud?
Your reason for getting an abortion is the right one, and you don't have to explain your abortions to anybody.
This is stuff that goes viral.
So, one thing, I said do something a little crazy. Don't do anything illegal. Just do something creative.
Yes, please don't get arrested. We're not bailing you out.
As far as that video, there's this sentiment in the pro-abortion crowd and the leftist crowd that they're countercultural, when really they are the culture. They're very there's nothing counterculture about them, which makes them not really cool. Their views aren't cool because it's mainstream and it's what people believe. Our views are interesting and cool to a lot of people. So you make a video saying the same exact thing, except saying, there's no reason you should end a life in the womb, etc., etc. You might get a lot of hate online, but you are going to get a lot of traction, and you're gonna start to encourage people to think deeper about the issue.
Right. Well, and hate is engagement at the end of the day. And when it comes to hate, I know you get a lot of hate. Your DMs are probably full of it. You probably get comments out the wazoo. You get so many comments, I can't read them all. But how do you deal with the hate for somebody who might be thinking of speaking out and they're kind of like, I just don't know if I can deal with the pushback. How did you start to handle it? And now it probably is just like nothing. You're just like, whatever, it's fine. But when you first started?
It was funny. When I first started, one of my first videos that blew up and got tons of hate, it affected me for a few hours. And then after that, yeah. I've never even looked back because I know that I'm speaking the truth. And I know I'm in the right, and I'm coming from a moral, standpoint. So anybody can hate on me because they're insecure and they want to go live a degenerate life and they don't want to be held accountable. That's fine. I understand that you want to keep living destructively, but you don't get to put that on me. And I also understand that the people who disagree with my views are oftentimes, especially in our country, the louder mouth type. So just because you're getting a lot of hate comments doesn't mean the majority of people watching your videos hate on you at all.
Totally. Yeah. So, okay, kind of shifting gears a little bit. The dating culture right now really fuels abortion because it's like hookup culture. It's, Bumble and Tinder. And actually, I don't even know if Bumble's the right one. I have never used these apps. You could probably tell. So I don't know anything about them. But hookup culture is a big thing right now, and the left tries to push this idea that sex is just nothing, and you don't have any connection with the person and it's not that big of a deal. But we obviously know otherwise, and we know that sex is what creates a baby. What are your thoughts on hookup culture and what we're seeing a lot of young people do these days?
I think it hurts your spirit. I think it's
Totally, yeah.
destructive to your mind. I think it hurts your heart, like your emotions. It's emotionally destructive. And this idea that you can do whatever you want and not be held accountable, no. A lot of times people act as though like they have a right to have sex. Okay, sure. If that's what your viewpoint is, fine, go ahead. You don't have a right to end a life though. And so my
Right.
saying is always, if you don't want to get pregnant, keep your legs closed, and there will be no issue at all.
Exactly, because when you practice sex or decide to engage in it, if you're not married, and that is what creates a baby, consent to sex, something we always say at Students for Life is consent to sex is consent to pregnancy, whether you want it to be or not. We know what makes a baby. And if you're going to do those actions, then you will probably get pregnant.
I never want to be too graphic, but if you are old enough to make the decision to engage in sexual relations, I promise you, you're old enough and you probably have the resources to take care of a kid.
Right. Well, that's the problem is these days younger and younger kids think that they're old enough to engage in that because we push that on them and we make them think that it's okay to have sex at younger and younger ages. There was a middle school here in Colorado where girls, middle school, I mean, my son is middle school. He's 14, so he's about to be in high school. But I mean, you think of sixth graders who were really young, what's that, 11, 12 years old, and they wear different color bracelets to kind of share what they've done with guys, whether they've how far they've gone, whether it's oral or whether it's something else or, all the way. Like the bracelets are different colors. And so we're seeing a lot of that. The fact that culture just says it's okay to have sex willy nilly. There's a lot of kids who are taking that on too. And we're seeing it as young as middle school, probably even elementary school, but I don't even want to think about that.
And there's a power, everyone, to, like Christine just said, the culture like pumps this out. It's mainstream. There's a power to going against the culture and saying, I won't be engaging in that.
Yeah.
People look at you like you're different, and it's cool. You come across like a more mature, powerful individual. You do not need to just ride with the crowd and do whatever they do. They are going and jumping off a bridge. You don't need to jump with them.
Yeah. Something I love about you, which I don't know how you do it, is you know how to maintain friendships with people on the other side. I have tried, and it's not because I don't like people on the other side, but they don't want to be friends with me. And maybe it's because it's the pro-life topic that I'm super, super passionate about. And obviously parents' rights when it comes to CRT and, all the other stuff that they're pushing on kids. But how do you, I mean, what advice for me and maybe anybody listening, but how do you maintain those friendships? Because to me, they just cut me out. And you say some stuff that's pretty, out there and extreme. And here they are like, oh, we still want to be his friend. So what's the secret sauce? What's your secret potion there?
I would say it's two things. One is never bending to your beliefs for your friends. So like
Yeah.
with my liberal friends or friends on the other side, I never feel like I can't talk about a certain issue because I don't want to offend them. I never feel like, well, I'm not going to create this piece of content because I don't want to. No, I'm me. I have my beliefs. Those are not changing. You want to be friends with me? You don't get to pick my beliefs. So one is don't bend for other people. By the same token, just because we have different beliefs doesn't mean we can't be fun together. Like we can
Right.
still cut up,
So
joke.
do
I
you
think
generally not talk politics with them? Or do you avoid it?
we don't have to talk about it, but I think the one of the key things is you can't be friends with anyone who can't take a joke. So you should
Right.
be able to take jokes from them, and they should be able to take them from you. Humor, I think, is a great uniter. It brings people together because you can kind of laugh at like what you know is kind of true.
I was thinking, I was like, there's no way he could be walking with somebody and see a blue-haired liberal. If you guys don't know and listen to Christian all the time, you should, and you'll know that he's always talking about blue-haired liberals. It's like, there's no way he can avoid saying, oh my God, it's a blue-haired liberal.
Yeah, it's a deranged blue-haired lib. They should be able to take a joke. I think that's the thing that makes two good friends with different political beliefs.
Totally. Well, Christian, thank you so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate it. I want to ask one last question. If you had to give one piece of advice to a student or supporter who's listening or watching on how to speak out, we kind of covered it a little bit here, but what is your biggest and best advice to encourage others to kind of have the same boldness that you have and speak out?
Be okay with being an individual. You don't need 100,000 followers. You don't need a large group of supporters.
Yes.
You don't need
Yes.
everybody to love you. You know what you believe. Stand up for it because you know how important it is.
You're right. Having followers is not what it takes to have a voice, because I hate the word influencer. Everybody is an influencer. Everybody, you influence two people and then they influence two people and then they influence two people. You know, it just keeps going on and on. You have no idea whose life you're changing when you speak up, even just one person. And if you influence one person, that's amazing. That's a good thing.
That's great. Exactly.
Totally. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Christian. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Christine.